Hi, I'm Andrew Shovlin, Trackside Engineering Director here at Mercedes, and I'm here to answer your questions about the British Grand Prix. So Silverstone, it's a great circuit, fantastic crowds and always an exciting race, and this year was no exception. Things didn't go to plan for Lewis though. Poor start and then contact with Kimi Raikkonen at turn 3 put him to the back, so he had his work cut out fighting through the field. Valtteri had a good start and his race was all against Vettel. He was in P2, chasing him on the same strategy. Things were looking pretty good there. We were closing on the second stint, and then the safety cars turned the race on its head, seeing a range of strategies. And we also had some good battles further down the field. But overall, second and fourth for Mercedes wasn't the result we wanted, but pretty good result given the situation we had on lap 1. First question from Paolo on Instagram, asking about Lewis's start. Well, I mean, the simple answer is we got some wheel spin. There was a bit less grip on the grid than we were expecting. We had done practice starts there. Silverstone, they do actually let you do a start from the grid. But for some reason on Sunday, we didn't quite have what we expected. And as soon as you get the wheel spin, you lose traction. And that then lost in places pretty quickly. So we're doing a lot of work here this week trying to understand that, because we know fine well that if we qualify on pole, we've got to get off the line as well as the Ferraris. And that's what we'll be trying to do in Hockenheim. And next question from Jack on Instagram, asking whether Lewis had any damage from the contact with Kimi. Well, the short answer is no, we didn't really have much damage at all. It was quite a big impact and we were pretty lucky to get away with it. The reality though is you heard Lewis complaining about damage to his floor. We thought that there might have been some aerodynamic damage, but that was actually just from running in the turbulent air of all those cars ahead when he was having to fight through. It was only actually when he got into clear air and he could feel what the car was like, we could see his pace, that we were able to really understand that the damage was actually very, very minimal. Next question's from Richard on Facebook, asking why we didn't leave Lewis out longer looking for a safety car. Well, Lewis's tyres by that point were end of life. The other thing was you'd seen the two Red Bulls and Kimi closing on us, and we were getting to a point where even if there were a safety car, we were going to drop behind them. So then it comes a question of race time. If you leave Lewis out, his tyres are getting very old, almost worn down to zero. And actually, if there is no safety car, we're just making ourselves slower over the whole race. So that was why once you've lost that window, you decide to make the stop and you're just going for the quickest time to the finish. And we have a question from Jess on Twitter asking, with hindsight, would we have done something different with Valtteri during the safety car? Well, the answer to that is absolutely we would have done. What we were doing at the time, though, was thinking that if we just followed Vettel in, if we did the same as him, put the softs on, we're not going to win the race because we were behind him on softs on the first stint and we weren't able to make any inroads into him. He would have also had no trouble managing his tyres over that shorter stint at the end. So what we were doing here was playing for the win. The chance of winning the race was higher if we were to do something different, stay out, leave Valtteri in control, and the question was, would Valtteri's tyres last well enough for him to be able to keep Vettel behind? Now, as you saw, that wasn't the case. We couldn't keep Vettel behind, and Valtteri did an amazing job of actually defending for a number of laps before he got through. But we even spoke to Valtteri after the race about that, and he knew fine well what we were doing. We were trying to put him in the lead. He knew that he was going to have a car on new softs behind him, but he was actually very happy that we made that decision because he would rather be given a chance to win the race than just banking second place. And next question from Nicolette on Twitter, asking how genuine was Lewis's pace on the mediums and could he keep it up? Well, I mean, the pace is genuine. That's what Lewis was lapping in, and he was very, very quick on that tyre. You saw that he was reeling in all the cars ahead, so he was fastest guy on track at this point. The thing is, though, Silverstone's a very high-energy circuit with a lot of fast corners, and you will get degradation. So Lewis would not have been able to do those lap times to the end of the race, but everyone else is degrading. So I think Lewis would have been pulling people in until the end of the race, and his opportunity would have arisen later, where his fresher tyres would have been in much better condition, and he would have been battling through those cars, fighting for a podium or a win. So the question from Nico on Facebook about whether Valtteri could have caught up with Sebastian without the safety car. Well, we've pretty much done that. He was 4 seconds behind after the stop. A few laps later, we were 2 seconds behind. And this was because Vettel was managing his tyres, because he knew he had to stay on a one-stop strategy to make sure he could win the race. Valtteri had better degradation than Sebastian. So his opportunity was really going to come about towards the end of the race if Sebastian's tyres ran out. And that safety car was actually the worst thing that could happen to Valtteri. His race was looking very interesting strategically. If Sebastian went to a two-stop, Valtteri could have stayed on a one and potentially won. He also had the option of going to a two-stop himself, which Vettel wouldn't have been able to react to. So his opportunities were really diminished, and that was one of the reasons that we also decided to keep him out and see if we could keep that win alive. Next question from Rishka on Twitter, asking about whether we use team orders when Lewis passed Valtteri. Well, the answer is no. We're letting them race at the moment. Valtteri was defending hard, but ultimately Lewis had fresher tyres, and those fresher tyres give you better traction, and that was how he was able to pass pretty early on that straight. And it's a relatively easy overtaking zone. Thank you everyone for all your questions. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time answering more questions from the German Grand Prix.